based on this table, set of tables, would like to be able to put something in those tables. Now, remember we had like these two sets of tables. We had this car, person, and then we did not finish the car, the insurance, with this one. We just one thing was missing, which was the accident, right? And I'd like to start with, or I can start with the other one, that doesn't matter. So now let's keep with the university. I wanted to start with the other one because this one has too many tables, but I can start with this very simple one. Now, I'd like to put something inside this, some data inside of those tables. I'd like to show you the basic. I'm going to use this department because that's kind of easy and straightforward. There's just only two columns. And then I'll show you the things that I can do with that by adding the students and etc. Now, I have to start with department because student needs department. And then a course needs department. And then a section needs a course that needs a department. And then grade, well, I can start also with grade because nothing depends on it. So I can start either with department or grade, but department is the bottleneck for a lot of others. If I don't have the department, I will not be able to create the student, the course, the section, and whatever is depending on them. So let's say I'm going to create, I would like to insert some code inside this department. So how to do that? I'm just going to create a new SQL just to be like separated from the data definition language. This is DDL, the data definition language, which deals about the structure. Now we're going to deal with the data itself, so the data manipulating language, DML. So to that, just use the same thing if you'd like to use the university. I'm already using it, but I'm just showing it here so I can use it later on. And then if I'd like to insert something, that's the code for that. Insert into, and why is it complaining? Yeah. Insert into, and then I specify the name of the table. So department, check that. You can just drag and drop so we don't make mistakes on those. Now there are two ways to do that. There's the short way and then the longer way. The short way is the following. Values, and then you specify what are the values you'd like to put into a department. Remember, we just did this to you. So I'm just going to put the code and the text of the code. CS, let's say. And then semicolon. Yes?
The order is broken?
If I use this, the order is important. If I use this without, this short version, the order is important. The order in which they are into this, they were entered. Now, if I would like to put them in a different order, I can. But then I have to do the longer version. The longer version is I specify exactly where each one goes. If I have 10 fields, 10 columns, I'm going to put them 10 of them. So that's why we go for the shorter one sometimes. Yes.
Put inside single
yes.
quotes.
The texts are single quotes
All the time?
or double quotes. And it doesn't matter. Even the ints, you can put them in single quotes or double quotes. But I usually don't do that, so I don't get confused. Yeah.
Is it possible to enter like a decode without the name? Or if I want to
Well, yes. Yes, because by default, when you do something like this, you can leave some empty, unless it's a primary key. A primary key you cannot. But if not, it's just, it can be empty. So I can leave it empty, or I can put null. That's the empty.
if I leave it empty?
Now, if you leave it empty like this, it's a mistake. Unless in the creation of the table, you do something that specifies that this is by default. This is the default value that this should have if I don't enter any value. But we didn't do that. So we don't use it. But if we did, how can we do that? Just very simple. You say default null, or default nothing. I don't know. Or maybe put this single quote. I don't know, because I prefer this to be in the green. It looks more visible, so I'll just put the single quote for that. But single quotes or double quotes doesn't make a difference. And actually, when you're programming, single quotes are much better, because if you'd like to use that in Java or whatever programming language, you can put those single quotes inside of double quotes. But if you use double quotes, you have to use the backslash double quote inside of those. So it's much more processing. So that's why it's easier to use the single quote. It's much simpler. Yes? For each entry, yes. For each line that you would like to insert, you have to do that. Or there's some kind of a shortcut when you insert into and then put some first one comma and then the set of values. The values can be different, but that's the thing. And what if I'd like to specify that something should not be null? Not null. That means it should not be empty. If I do put something like this, that means I'm putting a condition that I cannot put a null value inside this column. Now, if you do something like this, by default, if I don't enter anything, if I just do this, by default, it will be nothing. That's what this means. But since we didn't do that, let's just keep it. I'm sorry? It just put a value inside that column if I don't specify it. Look, if I do something like this, for example, I'm not specifying the value of the dname. So that value will be there. But if I would like to use that, I should not do this, because if I put them explicitly, then it will look for another value for this other column. So I can do something like this if I want it to be like that. Yes?
Is there any way to just insert all the data for any column without making insert into the bottom?
No. You have to go through this code. Yeah. So now let's try that. Let's just put back how it was, and then let's put the CS. Yes. Make the code null. 0, it can be 0, but null. I don't get your question, because that's what I'm doing right now. I'm setting a value. To be empty, but it's a primary key. So why would you? But and you cannot. Primary keys are like by default not null, something like that. So now if I run this thing, you see insert into, and this worked green. That means it was into. So now how can I see what's inside of it? Now remember this relational algebra.
Yeah.
Now if I'd like to see what's inside of the department, what should I do? Just do the selection without putting any condition, and then the name of the table. This is what I'm going to do. But this time I'm not going to represent that in that symbol, but this is the selection. Select, but I need to specify what are the columns I'd like to see. If I want all of them, star. I don't need to type. If I want specific ones, I have to type them one by one. If I want, for example, I just would like the dname, I type just dname. If I want all of them, I'll type star. Now select dname, and then I need to say from where. From department, and you press Control Enter, which will run this line, and this is what was run. This is the result, just one column, one value, because that's all I have. Now if I change this with this, I will have like 2 columns. Yes?
Can you have like conditions?
Can you have what?
Conditions?
Yeah, of course, we'll see that. Now, this is the basic thing, just to be able to, so you can see what's inside of your table once you insert something in it. Now let's insert another data, and this time with the other version, without nothing. Yes?
How about if I want to modify a row?
I'll come to it. And now let's just run this one too, and let's execute again this one, and you're going to see now I have 2 lines.
We don't need to write
No, this one, no. But if you don't, that means you have to make sure that you put the things in the right order. Because if you don't know what's the order, for example, and you do something like this, and do something like this, for example. Now, if you try to run this, it's going to tell you there's a problem. Integer value ME cannot be put in decode because it's expecting the first value to the first column, the second value to the second column. So it has to be in the order that you mentioned. Yes.
Is this display on the table? The last row is not.
Now this is just like showing in this. Well, that's a good question because I did not mention it. Let me just run this first and then I can see it. I'm going to send this. Now this null here is just to allow you to add things because this tool here allows you to also, if you'd like to add it in the user interface, you can do that. Now you see if you do this now, there's a button that was hiding here a little bit. There's another button next to it. I don't know why it's not showing correctly, but yeah, now it shows. You see there's this revert and apply. When you revert, it will just revert to what this result gives you, what this query, what it gave you. But if you click apply, look what happens. It just prepares it for you. It prepares the same thing that you would have typed yourself, but this time it puts these everywhere. But notice what is this? Schema name, table name. We called it university, right? So university dot the table, the schema dot the table, and then everything they put into this because they don't want to have any problem with any column that you named. Yes. Yeah.
I made that switch state.
It will just get in.
Get.
Yeah.
But as an answer the question is
Yes. Yes. Now you see here, even though this is an int, they use this like that, which means if I apply, it's just going to execute the statement. It's okay, that means no problems. You finish. Now if I just refresh or execute this thing again, it's going to give me. And it's just this null here just to give you a place where you can add manually something if you want to. Now what if I'd like to make change to something? If I would like to change something, well, I would like to close this and oh, here it is. Now if I'd like to change something, I can just do it by using update. But before the update, let's do the easy one. Delete, because deleting things are always easier than building. Now delete, if I'd like to delete, let's say, one of these, delete from, I specify the table, I need to put a condition now. If I do something like this, that means no condition, all the data is gone. If I put the condition, then I need to put a condition on based on what? Let's say I'm going to put a condition based on decode. When decode is greater than 2, I'm going to delete it, which means I'm going to keep at the end only CS and business. And let's see that. I'm going to execute this one. Done. And if I execute this one again to see, I only have these two now. Now what if I'd like to modify? This is the update. Update, I need to mention the table that I'd like to modify, department. And then I need to set something. So update department, set what? Now I need to choose which column I would like to change. So let's say I'm going to change the dname because it's easier, less confusing. So I'd like to change the dname to be what? CS. I need to put this into this. Maybe C, S, and E. Okay. Now if I don't put any condition, all the lines are going to be changed to that. So if you don't put any condition, the rule is going to apply to everybody, to all the lines, all the rows. Now if I'd like to put a condition, I put a where. Where what? Then dname or whatever. decode is equal to something, it will be easier. Decode is equal to 2. Now this 2, because I knew it was business, I'm going to put it back as business now. Because now that's what I have in 2. 2 has CS and E already. So I just like to execute this line and run it again. Now you can see that this is changing this to business. I can also change the ID of each one of them. Like it says the decode to be 3, where the decode was 1. That's confusing.
Not really.
So it's just going to change this to be 3 only for the one that is 1.
More
So
mixed change.
now this becomes 2 was in the now in the business, 3 is the CSNE. Did you realize that the order changed? Because the storage, when data is stored, it is stored based on the primary key. So the primary key is ordered by the primary key.
So primary key is fixed. We'll just take the letter.
What do you mean it's fixed?
Like name. So primary key
Sure.
is the name.
Okay.
One called Abdullah, one called Muhammad.
Okay.
And,
Same idea.
Alphabetically.
It's going to be sorted by name.
Yeah, but which name?
Well, A, then B, then C, then D. The same sorting of letters from A to Z. The same type of sorting, yes.
When you change because of the decode, you change the places. Business and CS and E also change. How's that? You change
Because the primary key, now the number, the one that was CS was with 1, so it was smaller than 2, which was the business. But when you change this, now the business, the CS from 1 to 3, what happens is that the sorting also is displayed from the smallest to the largest all the time. So instead of CS was 1, now CS is 3. That means now business is going to be on the first one.
So every row is one.
Of course, because we need to keep the information. Every row has information that is related to each other. I'm not going to change the columns and keep the names, then it's going to mess up everything.
So even if you change the D name, instead of decode D name, it will also change the.
No, because it's sorted based on the primary key. D name is not part of the primary key, so it's not going to be sorted.
Oh, so when you change the primary key, they also.
It's because of the primary key, that's why the sorting. Yeah. So now you know how to insert, how to update and delete. Now you can also do this from here. Because if I'd like to update, I can also do this from here. Let's say I'd like to change this back to 1. And then you see, press enter. And now this apply is available. If you click on apply, you see this is the code that is there. You can also, before clicking apply, you do another change. I'm going to call this MIS. So now I'm doing 2 changes, right? And then if you click on apply, the 2 changes are going to be there. Yes?
Can I delete from the interface?
You can also delete from the interface. So if you click on apply, it's going to change whatever you did. You want to delete something, you click on it, and this is the deletion. Delete selected row. You click on this one, apply, here's the code. Everything that you do in click is just like some kind of a shortcut of a code that is behind. Your job is to know the code. So don't rely too much on this, because you will not learn the codes, and then on the exams we're going to ask you about the codes.
Is it going to show any difference in the code?
What do you mean?
Like go on the coding page.
The coding page, this one.
When you do apply,
No, it's the same thing.
it will not change.
If you do it from here or from there, it's the same, because at the end it's the same thing.
When you do apply,
Yes. No, it will not touch this code.
okay, so what's
The difference, you know what you type. Here you rely on what you just click and then don't remember the codes.
I mean, it will conflict if I make the code the same. That I want to, and I change some input on the user interface.
Okay?
Then I click apply. It will change for just this one.
Okay, it will change in the database. But these instructions are stored in a separate file. When you run them, then they take effect.
Yeah, that's what I mean. If I run this now,
It will take effect.
it will return my old one.
It depends. Now, let's see, for example, in this case. Now, if we try to insert this line here, this is a primary key. Primary key do not allow redundancies, repetitions. Now, if we try to run this one, error. Duplicate entry 2 for primary key. So you can't. So it's not going to restore your initial state unless you delete everything and start from scratch. Unless before doing anything, I do something like this. Delete from department. Then you add whatever you want to add. Then yes, this is going to restore as it was. And actually, when you do a backup, what it does, it just prepares all the instructions to give you the state of your database. Any question? So, what I'm saying this is just I don't want you to rely on just this. I'm just showing you so you can, if you forget the syntax or something, you can just go back. Oh, what I can do? Okay, this. If I'd like to update, what is the syntax? You can go back here. That's much simpler. You can also go back here if you want to by selecting this DML, and you have all the syntax how to insert, and with all the fun that comes with it. And when you like to select, there's a lot of things in select. We haven't seen that, but there's update and with the delete. But this is some kind of a shortcut how to try to find the code. Yes.
By in that insertion,
Yeah.
in the long way,
Yes.
if I change the order,
Yeah.
is it okay?
No, it's going to be a problem because if you change the order, that means the first value will come to the first column. So if you change the order like this to this, that means 1 is going to be inside of this dname.
Yeah, and I change also the value.
Oh no, if you change the value, that's no problem. You can do that, yes. You can do this, that's exactly the same thing. Yeah. Yes.
So when you open a new page,
Like this.
how can you specify it to be DML or TDL?
Which one? Here?
Yeah, this one is DML.
Yes.
And the previous-
It's depending on what kind of instruction you're doing.
So it's not
The no, it's the instruction that determines if it's DML. These are DML instructions. The other ones are DDL instructions. So it's just depending on what you do. If you mean with this one, this is just like some kind of a shortcut that shows you what kind of SQL statements that you would like to look for. So that's what we're going to be doing, inshallah, next class. Practicing these things. Insert, update, delete. And if you have any questions about this create table, alter table, this is going to be part of thing. There's something that we haven't talked about, how to alter. I didn't do a lot of how to change a table to add something, because this is going to be part of the midterm exam, which is how to make a small change to a database by adding a column or deleting a column, or adding a constraint or foreign key or removing it, something like that. Yes. Yes.
It will be all about the SQL, or we'll have algorithms.
In the midterm practical?
Yeah. We'll have the
Can you give me an example of things that I can ask about the before?
midterm part. It will be only on SQL, or we will include the first thing that we
What is the first thing that we did? That's what I'm trying to say.
diagrams and also the
No, it's not going to be diagrams. It's going to be MySQL. And now I understand your question. Yes, just MySQL.
Our midterms Wednesday, how to we will take
The class on Monday? The class on Monday, you mean? The class on Monday?
on Wednesday.
Okay.
I mean the midterms on Wednesday.
The midterm is on Wednesday, yes.
There is stuff you should mention that we didn't take yet.
We'll take care of it tomorrow, inshallah.
Tomorrow.
Yes.
Or do we have, yeah.
We did it before, but I just would like to remind you about it tomorrow.
Forget about the class tomorrow.
Yeah.
about the so I was trying to install the SQL.
Okay, but let's just close this video now. If you don't have any more questions about this, okay, I just would like to stop here and then what